The night was thick with humidity, the kind of summer air in Baltimore County that made even the streetlights seem hazy. Officer Daniels leaned against his patrol car, jotting notes into his pad, when a black Honda Accord rolled past, its tags crooked and faded. He squinted. Something about them didn't look right. "Those plates are fake," he muttered, tapping his partner on the arm. Officer Miller glanced up, adjusting his flashlight. "Wanna pull her?" Daniels nodded, slid into the driver's seat, and hit the lights. The Honda slowed reluctantly before jerking to the curb. Inside sat a woman, hands gripping the wheel tightly, her shoulders hunched as though bracing for impact. Daniels approached carefully. "Good evening, ma'am. License and registration, please." The driver turned her head. She looked tired, worn out, with shadows under her eyes. "I don't have my license on me," she admitted, her voice flat. "Registration?" Miller asked from the other side of the car. The woman sighed heavily, almost annoyed. "Car's mine. Just don't have the papers." Daniels exchanged a look with Miller. "No license, no registration, fake tags. Standard tow procedure." But as he stood there, pen tapping against his ticket pad, he noticed something strange. The driver wasn't panicked. She wasn't begging them to let her go. She seemed more irritated than afraid. "What's your name?" Daniels asked. "Nicole Johnson," she replied. "Step out of the car, Nicole." She muttered something under her breath but complied, slamming the door harder than necessary. The officers began their routine. When a car is being towed, everything inside must be documented. Miller popped the trunk release, and that was when both men stiffened. A wave of air escaped the trunk, and with it came a stench so powerful that Miller gagged instantly, covering his nose with his sleeve. Daniels stumbled back, swearing under his breath. It was the smell of rot, of something long dead, and once it hit, there was no mistaking it. "Jesus! What the hell is that?" Miller coughed. Nicole's voice cut through the darkness. "Told you, you don't want to open that." Daniels grabbed his flashlight, his hand shaking. He pointed the beam into the trunk. Black trash bags were piled carelessly inside. Some were torn, stuffing poking out, stained with dark patches. He pulled one aside with the tip of his flashlight, and then he saw it. A suitcase, worn and dirty, zipped tight. The smell grew even stronger. Miller hesitated. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" Daniels swallowed hard. "God, I hope not." Together, they pulled the suitcase into the open. It was heavy, far heavier than it should have been. Daniels unzipped it, and both men recoiled violently. Inside, wrapped in blankets, was the small, decomposed body of a child. For a moment, neither officer moved. Danielle's flashlight beam shook as it hovered over the remains. The child's features were barely visible, the face sunken, skin discolored. It was impossible to tell at a glance how long the body had been there, but the stench made one thing clear: this was no recent death. Miller's voice cracked. "Daniels, it's a kid." Nicole stood a few feet away, arms crossed, watching almost blankly. Her face gave nothing away. Daniels spun toward her. "What the hell is this, Nicole? Who is this child?" She shrugged, her tone eerily calm. "You'll see." Before they could even process, Danielle's flashlight beam swept across the trunk again and landed on something else. A large, black plastic container. Its lid was half-snapped, taped crudely along the edges. Daniels felt a knot twist in his stomach. "No!" Miller reached for it, his hands trembling. Together, they pried the lid open, and there it was again. Another small body, decomposed, curled in on itself. Another child. Miller staggered back, his knees nearly buckling. "Two of them. Oh God, two of them." Daniels slammed the trunk closed and grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 3 to 14. I need homicide at my location. I repeat, we have multiple deceased juveniles discovered in a vehicle. Suspect in custody. Send backup immediately." The air was electric with shock and disbelief. The quiet suburban street suddenly filled with flashing blue and red lights as more units arrived. Officers whispered among themselves, unable to hide their horror. Nicole Johnson didn't resist when they placed her in cuffs. She didn't shout. She didn't cry. She simply muttered, "Guess they'll finally see what I've been carrying." At the precinct, word spread quickly. 2 children, a woman driving around with them for months, maybe years. The officers who made the discovery sat in silence, heads in their hands, trying to shake the image from their minds. But who were these children? Detectives began pulling records, running Nicole's name through databases. Soon, the grim truth emerged. The children were her niece and nephew, 7-year-old Jocelyn Johnson and 5-year-old Larry O'Neill. They had been entrusted to Nicole's care by her sister. Back in 2019, their mother had struggled, financially, emotionally, and practically. She asked Nicole to take care of them temporarily. Family helping family, she had thought. But that decision would become one of the worst mistakes of her life. At first, no one outside the family noticed anything unusual. Children being cared for by relatives was common. But as the months turned into years, questions began to surface. Neighbors asked where the kids were. Nicole gave vague answers, "They're with family," or "I'm homeschooling them." Her stories shifted depending on who was asking. What no one knew was that both children were already gone. Back at the scene, as investigators in hazmat suits carefully removed the children's remains from the trunk, Officer Miller whispered, "How long do you think they've been in there?" The lead detective shook his head grimly. "Too long. We'll need the medical examiner for that." Nicole watched it all from the back of a patrol car, her face lit by the flashing lights. She didn't look away as the small, lifeless bundles were placed into separate vans. When Daniels approached her, she leaned forward against the seatbelt, her eyes dark. "It doesn't matter anymore," she said softly. "They're already dead." Her words cut through him like ice. The night that began with a simple traffic stop had exploded into one of the most disturbing cases Baltimore had seen in years. Investigators knew the hard part had just begun. They would need to piece together how the children died, why Nicole kept them hidden, and why no one noticed for so long. But before they could even start, there was one thing they had to do: talk to Nicole. At the station, she was led into an interrogation room, her cuffs removed. She rubbed her wrists, sat down, and looked across the table at the detectives. One of them, Detective Harris, leaned forward. "Nicole, we need to understand what happened here. Those were 2 children in your car. Your niece and nephew. Why were their bodies in your trunk?" Nicole tilted her head, her lips curling into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You really want to know?" she asked. Her words hung in the air, heavy and cold, leaving the detectives bracing themselves for what she was about to say.